Are you tired of the same old pro wrestling? Then check out the amazing action on Powerslam.tv, the biggest indie pro wrestling channel in the world. Get over 4,000 hours of the best pro wrestling events from over 110 of the biggest names in the industry from over 15 countries around the globe. Get your free trial today at Powerslam.tv.
The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Don't you want to sound rich?
Welcome to episode 23 of your favorite podcast about all things elite. Welcome to All Things Elite. I am Floyd Johnson, newly married Floyd Johnson, and with me is my co-hostess with the mostest, the heart of this show, Miss Amy O. How you doing?
I am doing great. I'm in a very congratulatory mood. Congratulations, newly married one.
Well, thank you. I am very, very happy to be married. It was a very long engagement. We actually got engaged in November of 2017. So it was a very, very long engagement. And I'm finally happy that I locked that down. I do not own her. That was not a comment about me owning her. We locked each other down. You know, we are in a committed 50-50 relationship, and I love it.
That's wonderful. Well, it sounds like if you guys have had a long engagement that you've had a lot of time to think about it and a lot of time to plan things. Like, how was your wedding and how was your honeymoon?
All right. Yes. So our wedding was great. It went off. She handled 95% of it. So don't give me. She handled it all, and it went off without a hitch. When it comes to events and planning and things like that, I am a bit of a control freak. So to not have control of something was a little difficult for me. But when we got there and how everything looked, the venue was amazing, and it was the best. She did an amazing job. Had Olive Garden as our food. We had a bunch of cake. And it was great. And she looked gorgeous. And so that was great. I did get to put my little Floyd swag on it. Because at the so we're there, everybody's standing there, they're waiting, for everything to start. Everybody's sitting down. I kind of, no one kind of knows where I'm at. I'm kind of back by the bathroom. And then Cody Rhodes' music hits. A Kingdom by Downstate, and everybody's looking around like somebody pressed the wrong button, and here comes me from behind the steps doing my intro or my love for Cody Rhodes, and I come down the aisle. Everybody got a kick out of that because everybody knows how big of a wrestling fan I am, so they were like, I was a little shocked, and then I was like, well, that's appropriate, so I came down to Cody Rhodes' theme, no other theme I would come down to. And when that happened, and then she came down to it, and we got married, did the whole lighting of the candle thing, and everything was awesome. Said our vows to each other. I didn't cry. What? I thought I was. I swear. I'm kind of a crier, but I can tell you, I was sweating so hard because I don't dress up very often. I was sweating so hard. I don't think I had a liquid 4 tears, but that was good. And then at the end of the wedding, which the part that I was surprised. So the DJ, he's my guy. His name's Jerry Bostic. He actually runs a World Class Revolution in Oklahoma. So my DJ was a wrestling promoter, which again, appropriate for me. So when I came out, he announced me, and then at the end, we kiss, and he says. And then he does in his announcer voice, Mr. and Mrs. Floyd Johnson, and then hits Cody's music as we walk out together and we raise our hands up. And it was a good moment.
That's amazing and so romantic and so perfect. I mean, seriously, like, okay, Cody Rhodes' music, besides the fact that it's an amazing song and one of the best songs in wrestling, it's also about new eras. And for you to walk out to both as Floyd Johnson and then with your wife, signaling a new era together, that is so perfect. That's amazing. Congratulations.
Well, yes. Well, thank you. And the thing about it is the reason I picked that song. Of course, Cody's my favorite wrestler, but when Cody comes out, on like very rare, unless she's doing something else on the show, Brandy's always with him. And they are very much a wrestling power couple, but it's not like a wrestling power couple where it's like one is clearly more popular than the other. They both bring something to their relationship. They complement each other well. When I look at them, not knowing, the deep interpersonal workings of the relationship, they look like they have a really good relationship. So it's just like, I was like, you know what? I definitely wanted that to be the music that played, I thought about some other different ones I went through, but that was the one I decided on because, Cody's kind of a role model of mine, so that works for me. I also, and I'm just not trying to put you all over, also love you and Andy's relationship. Love your relationship. It's just how y'all interact, everything, it just seems like y'all complement each other, y'all are a team, and that's what my whole goal with Crystal has always been, to complement each other, to be a team. She's strong at certain things. I'm strong at certain things. I lean on her. She leans on me. And I think I get that from both of those relationships.
That is the sweetest thing in the world, to be able to just look at your wife and, start this new life with her and look at her as your partner, as your team, even with the wedding planning, and sort of compromising and stepping back a little bit and letting her shine. Like, man, I'm getting all teary and I'm just hearing about it. That is awesome.
Yes.
Well, congratulations to you both. And that is absolutely wonderful that you guys came out and brought some of what makes you, a part of your life there too, with wrestling, and with the fact that your DJ was a promoter is the coolest thing. And also Cody's music and signaling an era. That is awesome, man. Congratulations.
Yes, the actual outgoing intro where they announced he did it real hard with like we won the title or whatever, and then the Cody's music. I didn't even know that was happening. That was a complete surprise.
That is amazing.
I thought I got my intro, and I thought everything else was going to be traditional. But he hit the music, and I just kind of look at her, and I look at him. She's like, yeah, we talked about it before. And she surprised me that way. And it's just like, okay. And I put it on Twitter, and Cody liked it. And I was like, yeah, this is the perfect person for me. I have no doubt in my mind of that.
That is just so wonderful. Like, I'm grinning so hard. My face is going to get stuck here. Well, let's kick off our show, man. Let's get into AEW. We've got big news of the week. We've got Floyd Johnson getting married to his wife with a spectacular ceremony. This has been a fantastic week, man. Welcome back.
It has. But before we, Jeremy will beat me up if I don't say it. Got to start the show by reminding you this episode of All Things Elite is brought to you by Power Slam TV. Power Slam TV, where you can get access to over 4,000 hours of content from over 110 of your favorite wrestling brands from countries all around the globe onto your laptop and mobile device. If you use the code Social Suplex, you get the first month free.
Fantastic. All right, so let's dive into what's been in the world of All Elite Wrestling this week. Of course, we have AEW announcing their weekly live TV show starting Wednesday, October 2nd at 8 p.m. Eastern. This show will be at the Capital One Arena in Washington, D.C. Ticket sale information will be announced on Monday, July 29th on all AEW social media platforms. So Twitter, Instagram, this is probably going to be blasted by everyone on Twitter, so I'm sure you'll find it there. This is exciting. From what I hear, this arena holds around 14,000 people or something like that. Now, I think this was from Meltzer's coverage about it afterwards. He doesn't expect, that they may or may not be looking to fill 14,000 people, but like 8,000 would be a reasonable expectation for it. But either way, having arenas for your first show, we've been talking here, my husband and I, about flying out to DC for the first show because, if you go, you get to say you were there when it kicked off, the very first show. That's literal history. What are you thinking about, man? How does this sound to you?
It sounds amazing. I am as excited as I could possibly be. When we've been in line with Cody, he had said it was going to be either LA or New York. I am actually pleasantly surprised that it's Washington, D.C. It's like I'm very happy because I checked flights immediately. I'm literally driving back from Las Vegas, checking flights, and it's like, oh, there's a direct flight from Oklahoma City to Ronald Reagan and back. Boom. Yeah, so I'm definitely going. I made the decision before that no matter where it was that first week of TV, I needed to be there for it. It's actually going to be my last wrestling trip of the year. Gotta start saving up to get ready for 2020. 2019's been amazing, but yeah, it's been enough. Because it'll be like Chicago, Vegas, Washington D.C. I was in New York for Mania and stuff. It's like I've done a lot this year, but it's at some point you have to say, okay, that's enough for this year.
Yeah, and honestly, the first AEW show is a pretty good point for that to be. This is going to be so exciting, and Washington, D.C. is gorgeous this time of year. I went there once, and it's like fall hits. It's so gorgeous. You have trees of all different colors, and I'm sure people are probably laughing because trees change colors when it's fall. But when you live in a desert, that doesn't happen. So it's very exciting to see it when it does. And I'm really, really looking forward to it. Really excited about this. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they did sell this out because, again, this is going to be a literal piece of history, just like Double or Nothing was with their first pay-per-view. Having their first weekly kickoff show is going to be awesome, and I cannot wait to see what they have in store for it. I hear, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, I hear that it's going to be a 2-hour show. Is that correct?
Yep, 8 p.m. Eastern to 10 p.m. Eastern on TNT. They will be rated TV 14, and I'm looking forward to all of that. I've never been to Washington, D.C. We drove to Brooklyn once, from Oklahoma to Brooklyn. I don't think we passed through it. So I've never been there. This will be my first experience, another first when it comes to AEW. The first time I ever went to Chicago was for a Bullet Club Pro Wrestling Tees meet and greet. So I've pretty much saw a couple places that I had never been before. Pretty much followed. Cody has taken me there, and Cody and the crew's taken me there. So I'm looking forward to Washington, D.C. Me and All Elite Tiffany. She will definitely be there also. So we are looking forward to that.
Yeah, oh man, it's going to be a blast. All right, so let's take a look at some of the rest of the news that we have dropping this week. We've got MJF signs an extension for his contract with All Elite Wrestling, making it a 5-year contract. Now, this makes a world of sense because MJF is one of the best wrestlers that they have in AEW right now. And honestly, I'm going to say probably the best heel in wrestling at all right now. So to lock this guy in is absolutely a great move. He is AEW to me. If you look at the roster at this point, AEW doesn't make sense to me without MJF in it. So, of course, having him lock this down for a 5-year contract makes a lot of sense. But it also is a great sign that they are, of course, looking at a long-term picture with who they want 5 years from now.
And he's the best character in the company to me, because when it looks like, when you have a lot of great, you have a lot of wrestling, but sometimes to me in wrestling in general, sometimes we lack characters, and his character is so good. It is like he's so bad at being just like this horrible person that he's really, really good at it. And it's just, of course, with all things, of course, with the Elite and how much we love them, you needed someone to boo. And he has filled that role better than anyone. Because even Chris Jericho, as great as he is, probably one of, the GOAT, as great as he is, he has a hard time getting booed in this audience. Because a lot of people some of the people only know who Chris Jericho is. So you can insult him and they're going to cheer you because he's reached that level where it doesn't matter if he's heel or face. So you needed someone that could really be heel. And MJF is that. He is the number one heel in that place. I do love Sean Spears, his becoming that. And it's just like they need people that you can boo. And him signing a 5-year deal, what's significant is he has the longest contract in the company. Everyone else has 3-year deals. He has a 5-year deal. That means he is a cornerstone. He is a piece. He is going to be a main eventer going forward.
That just means he can say he's better than everyone.
Yes. He's like, everybody's only got 3-year contracts. I got 5 because I'm better than you.
All right. Well, you mentioned Sean Spears. So that leads directly into this next announcement, which was Sean Spears had been teasing that he had an ace up his sleeve in his feud with Cody Rhodes in the Road to All Out. Turns out that ace up his sleeve is actually one of the 4 horsemen, Tully Blanchard. And he has a multi-appearance deal with AEW, appearing as Sean Spears' manager in this feud. Floyd, I am sure that you are going to have a lot to say about this because I'm not as familiar with the 4 horsemen specifically. I obviously know who they are. I know their impact on wrestling. They've had a finger in every bit of wrestling that we see today and have inspired so many people of our generation. But I'm more familiar with Tully Blanchard at this point as Tessa's dad, which is also really awesome. Tell me a bit about Tully Blanchard, and can you let us know what you can maybe expect to see out of this influence of such a legendary figure on someone like Sean Spears and how that might impact Cody Rhodes in this feud heading into All Out?
I am so excited about this. Tully Blanchard, great part of, a huge part of my childhood. The 4 Horsemen, huge part of my childhood. It was like one of the things where, you had this group and it was they were almost like a boy band, but they were men and super sophisticated, all had their own type of characters. And Tully Blanchard was the playboy in-ring technician. He was the second generation wrestler. His dad was Joe Blanchard. He was one of those people, he had a punchable face is what a lot of wrestling pundits say. I didn't even think of him when I was young. I just thought he was just like one of the coolest people on the planet because Ric Flair strutted, but Tully Blanchard strutted a different way. Ric Flair had women, but Tully Blanchard had a woman. You know what I'm saying? It was just, he was like, him and Flair were kind of carbon copies of each other. Flair a little bit more charismatic. Tully Blanchard was definitely the in-ring guy. He was the more cerebral guy, he wouldn't say a lot, but he would definitely be the action. Him and Arn Anderson had a great tag team for a lot of years. They were also the Brainbusters in the WWF. When it comes to being a ring general, like if they had ring general and they needed a pitcher definition and in Webster's, it would be Tully Blanchard. He was always where he was supposed to be. He's consummate professional. So definitely a big get. Old school when it came to wrestling. Old wrestlers would end up becoming managers, especially if you were good on the mic and you helped in the back and all that kind of stuff. So this is a throwback to that. Going to get Tully Blanchard as your manager, someone who has done it before, someone that has been successful. And especially with Shawn Spears being the WWE 10 guy, I'm not using that. That's what a lot of people refer to him as. Tully Blanchard's going to give Shawn Spears the rub. He's going to bring Shawn Spears even more. That chair shot elevated Shawn Spears, but having Tully Blanchard in his corner makes him a threat. It makes him a legitimate threat. Tully Blanchard is going to give all of his years of experience. One of the matches that Tully is known for, believe he had a I Quit match with Magnum TA. And then he had a first blood match with Dusty, I believe. If I'm incorrect on any of those things, please, but I believe that's what they had. And it's just like, so he had a long-standing feud with Dusty Rhodes. So to continue that feud, with Shawn Spears against Cody Rhodes, this is what Cody does. He does really good job of taking things from the past and making them relevant as far as feuds and everything, making them relevant to today. So people that don't know who Shawn Spears is, like older fans that are like, what's this AEW stuff? Oh, he has Tully Blanchard in it. Oh, I remember Tully Blanchard. I'm going to look at him. That makes Shawn Spears more of a threat. Cody Rhodes, of course, has the Rhodes name, so everyone's going to give him a look based on that. So all of this comes together really, really well. With Tully being Shawn's guy, I don't know if maybe Tully does the stable thing. Heenan used to have 4 or 5 people, Jimmy Hart. That's how they did it in the WWF. I don't know where they're going with it, but I'm looking forward to finding out because Tully is a name in wrestling. He's a big name in wrestling to anybody that watched wrestling in the 80s.
Exactly. So you mentioned that, having Tully Blanchard in Shawn Spears' corner kind of elevates him. And I absolutely think it does. You have somebody who's a legendary figure of that old school in a similar way that Jim Ross is a legendary figure in commentary for old school wrestling. And I think that this really elevates him, Shawn Spears, as a credible threat against Cody, but also kind of in a larger than life way. And you have this, for somebody who says that they want to get rid of the Attitude Era or overcome the Attitude Era, this isn't Attitude Era stuff, but this is old school dynamics. You've got Dusty Rhodes' influence and spirit involved in this, and you've got Tully Blanchard wrapped up in this too. And I cannot wait to see what they do with Tully Blanchard, how he impacts Shawn Spears, and also whether this psychologically has a negative impact on Cody Rhodes. Is he going to have somebody seconding him in this match? I have no idea, but I cannot wait to find out how they fight through this match and how they use the dynamics between old school and new school wrestling in order to battle this out.
Yeah, and I only got 2 points to add to that. First of all, I've heard rumors, and it was my first thought when I thought of Tully Blanchard. I was like, well, Cody's going to come out with Arn Anderson. I'm pretty sure what I've learned is they give you what you want, but not quite exactly what you want. So it might end up being a different person. Maybe he does stick with the Diamond Dallas Page, who has always been somewhat of a mentor to him, or a Glacier or someone. But I just always, my first thought was to go to Arn Anderson, which is, he's Uncle Arn. He's everybody's Uncle Arn. That's just how it works. And it gives Cody his first blood feud, his first hate. The thing with Nick Aldis, and I'm talking about the shows that they've run. The thing with Nick Aldis, it was about the NWA title. The thing with Dustin, it wasn't really a blood feud. It was just like, you know what? We've always wanted to do this. We want to just see who's better. That's great. Darby Allin, we're going to elevate a younger guy. But this is a true blood feud from Cody. This is going to be you're going to get to see how it is when Cody hates someone. And honestly, in his independent run, he's had a lot of matches for titles and things like that. But he hasn't really had that feud, that hate feud, where it's like, oh, we got to do this in a street fight. We got to do this in this way because we literally, at this point, in wrestling terms, hate each other. So
yes.
We'll get to see a different dynamic of the Cody Rhodes' character because, Shawn Spears is just trying to basically use his name to be famous, but Cody Rhodes is going to definitely take this personal.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to see how this goes because we did start to see something like that in New Japan with his Bullet Club feud with Kenny Omega. But due to booking decisions, they had to sort of change direction on that. And they never really got the final payoff match that they wanted to with it. So it's going to be really fun to see Cody Rhodes have to fight that kind of match where he has to get gritty and he has to dig into that anger and that frustration. And again, that need to prove himself here. And I think this is going to be really awesome to see.
Yeah.
Let's hit it. Oh, sorry. Did you have anything else that you wanted to add to it?
I was just going to say, adding on to what you're saying, and it sets the precedent that AEW uses wrestling logic, which means any feud can come from anywhere. Because, like I said, they took a small thread and made this a big thing, which is what wrestling has always been, and it's kind of gotten away from that. So I do like that part. Now I am.
Yes. Yeah, no, I'm a sucker for good storytelling, and this is good storytelling. All right, so we talked a little bit about Dave Meltzer. He gave a report that AEW plans to run about 100 to 120 live events per year. And this, I believe, includes around 4 pay-per-views, 51 television shows, and several Saturday night house shows with rotating talent. What are your thoughts on that kind of schedule? I believe the focus that they have, and of course this is roundabout figures because it's coming from Dave Meltzer, and of course they need to iron things in once they get with their TNT schedule. But it looks like they are sticking to the point that they wanted to make, which was rotating their talent out and not putting in too much of a demanding schedule where they're away from their families for too long, but also so that they can rest, they can recharge, and we can recharge in seeing them too.
Yeah, I'm going to limit my thoughts because I actually have a lot of thoughts. First of all, this is brilliant to me. I think this is perfect. It was like when WWE, and I'm not comparing, was kind of oversaturating the market, and they split Raw and SmackDown. They were doing a Raw pay-per-view a month, a SmackDown pay-per-view a month, and it was just too much. And this is what we've always, like, as far as the wrestling fans, they like, passionate wrestling fans that really, really, like, care about how the wrestlers' livelihoods are and everything like that, this is what we've wanted. This makes sense. It's just like you're going to see them once a week. You're going to see them once a week on TV, or 51 weeks a year. I think they're going to take the Christmas week off, which makes perfect sense. You're going to get the 4 big shows that you can either fly out to, drive out to, or whatever. And then when a house show is in your area, you can go to the house show. And and if they rotate the wrestlers, that's going to keep them all fresh, which you're going to get higher quality product because wrestlers are going to be fresh and they're not going to literally hate their life. So I enjoy this. I think this is perfect. I was like I said, I've wanted WWE to do this, especially when they brand split. I was like, why do they need a pay-per-view every month? I always said if you do it each one had every other month and they were actually rotating, it would make more sense. And I've also said forever, when you have a huge roster, why not use it? Why not? Okay, we don't need all 70 of you here on this random Saturday night. Won't we take 20 to 30, put on a really good house show, and then the other 30 people can be at home resting, healing, doing their self-care so they can continue to be successful and can put on the highest quality product every time they're out there.
Absolutely. And with the spacing apart of their pay-per-views, that also adds to the ability to rotate their roster out even more. One of the things that I find a little frustrating at times is that, when we have very frequent pay-per-views, you often have the same sort of top people who are in the pay-per-views in the weekly shows that are building up to those pay-per-views. So it really kind of just feels like you're seeing the same people over and over and over again with just a few people in the background doing opening matches. So if you space out your pay-per-views, not only do you actually get to see and get to know and get to care about more of the roster and really feel invested in them, but you also get to build up storylines with a significant impact that pay off at a pay-per-view. And I have to say that's something that I really miss in watching wrestling. I remember being a teenager and watching these long storylines as they would draw out kind of like a soap opera over each week. And then by the time the pay-per-view would come, it would be this huge explosive release of that storyline, whether it would resolve it or turn it into a new direction or whatever the case may be. But it felt like it was something special, and it felt like it had an impact. And I think that in some cases we're losing that right now with too much saturation. So it'll be really interesting to see how they play to these schedules and what their plans are for those long-term booking decisions.
Yeah, you have so many main eventers on your roster. Kenny Omega versus one of your other guys can main event a house show. You could have the tag belts main event a house show. You could have Cody main event a house show. He doesn't need a title to main event. He's a big enough draw on his own. It's just like they have the talent there that can put on performances. And then in the undercard, you can get Private Party more work. You can get everyone more familiar with who Darby Allin is for people who aren't. And I'm just like throwing out names, but, Jack Evans and Helico. People that might not be on the TV every week can definitely be featured on that house show on Saturday night.
I just had a thought. Speaking of house shows, Joey Ryan runs Bar Wrestling, and they've worked really closely with Joey Ryan. I wonder when they do these smaller house shows, they have such a rich history with the indies, and they've spoken very highly of those relationships, of the memories of working in the indies, and really in putting the indies over in the build-up to their kickoff shows with AEW. I wonder if they're going to be using some of those relationships and smaller venues to have some of those shows. Because just thinking about being at a Bar Wrestling show in Southern California and seeing Kenny Omega at a house show is really amazing to think about. I wonder if they're going to start utilizing some of those resources and relationships for it.
And that would be so smart because when you look at each how this works in each indie company, a lot of fans are fans of their indie company, and they might not watch WWE, they might not watch New Japan or they might not watch AEW because they're trying to stay loyal to their company. But when they see AEW is doing what they can to work with those companies and lift them up, you're going to get different fans that way. So it is
absolutely
grassroots, very much a grassroots type of thing. And I completely agree. It would make sense. Bar Wrestling, I believe like VIP Wrestling in Dallas, maybe worked with Reality Wrestling in Houston, any of those companies out there, AAW. And it's just me throwing it off the top of my head. Of course, it seems like they're going to be doing stuff with House of Glory. So, it would just make sense to help build their fan base. And a lot of people, as much as in our little world, in our circle, everyone knows what AEW is, a lot of people outside of our circle probably have never heard of any of these people.
Yeah, and seeing them at an indie show, a house show, if they're indie fans and they go and support, their local wrestling, being able to see something like that is a really fun treat, I think, for everyone involved, and it doesn't detract negatively either. I think you hit the nail on the head there when you said that it really builds them up, because that's certainly in my mind what it did for Bar Wrestling. Bar Wrestling suddenly, SCU's going out there, Young Bucks are going out there, and I'm like, hey, what's Bar Wrestling? And then I'm suddenly seeing their flyers on my Twitter feed constantly, and I'm like, dang, their shows look fun. They look awesome. If I find myself in SoCal, I'm going to go to a bar wrestling show. So I think you're right in the sense that it does elevate while giving them a space to have these smaller scale house shows.
Yeah, I'm like I said, I'm really looking forward to whatever they do with these house shows, because what we found is you'll have an idea of exactly what you think they're going to be, and then they're going to do it, and they're going to do it generally better. They're going to put their own take on it, and it's going to be a little bit better. And the Bucks, this is indie wrestling is what they do. House shows is what they do. Matches and shows where it's like might not have anything to do with the greater storyline. They are very good at entertaining in that way. And, if they do the whole thing where the lead or whatever come out to the ring after the show and they get everybody fired up and play games like they did when they were in ROH, man, that would be that would be a unique experience to TV and pay-per-view.
Absolutely. Well, since we're on a track of kind of speculation, let's get into Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega was recently on a podcast, the J Podcast, with Alex Jabali and Michael Nakazawa. He was talking about, among many other things, of course, including video games and kind of just background life of him and Michael and Alex Jabali. They were talking about the Joshi wrestling scene, how fond he is of the women wrestlers that they've pulled in with AEW, that they've signed. And during a Q&A session at the end of this podcast, he was asked about whether he would wrestle any Japanese male wrestlers in the future. And he picked up on the intention of this question, which, of course, people loved Kenny Omega in New Japan, and people have really wanted a relationship between New Japan and AEW, especially considering that Moxley is in the G1. As of right now, that does not seem to be in the cards and is completely off the table, besides a few specific situations with Moxley, with Jericho, and potentially with Kenny Omega. That said, he picked up on the intention of this question, which was, I think I know what you are asking. And to answer that question, yes, you will see Japanese male wrestlers in the future. Now, that was very interesting because, of course, people were like, oh my gosh, who could it possibly be? But he also spent a lot of time talking about his DDT experience, which he has with Michael Nakazawa too. So it'll be really interesting to see. Kenny Omega clearly has his eye on Japan, not just New Japan, but in Japan in general. And I'm really curious to see if there are any people in particular that he might be thinking of bringing over into AEW and what, those matches could look like.
Yeah, that would definitely be interesting. I can say I am, when it comes to Japanese wrestling, I'm a New Japan guy. That's all I know. It's like, I know there's Big Japan, All Japan, Noah. I know there's a lot of different other companies, but I know New Japan. Like, I know the roster of New Japan. I know the storylines. So I don't know who else they could bring in. It's like, if me talking about those any other people's names, it would just be me just like saying names. Like, I don't know. I don't know a lot about that. I don't know what they bring to it, if they're good or anything like that. I listen to the Voices of Wrestling flagship, and they talk a lot about the other companies in Japan, and I'm like, oh, okay, I know names. I know enough to be familiar, but I'm excited because Kenny Omega is one of those guys that can put on great matches with anyone. So if you do use different talent that people might not know in Japan, you can use them to get over here. And it's like, everybody's always like, they want the AEW New Japan relationship, but what about an AEW Dragon Gate or AEW Noah or some other relationship with other Japanese wrestling companies that probably need the exposure in America more than New Japan. New Japan's doing fine with their American exposure. They don't really need that up, but there's a lot of Japanese companies that do need that hand up.
Absolutely. And Kenny Omega, I mean, when you look at his career and how varied it has been, and also how focused in Japan it has been. He lived there for over 10 years, spoke the language, really got into a lot of different promotions. I mean, just given the insight that he has with the Joshi wrestling scene, with DDT, with New Japan, of course, it'll be really interesting to see who he brings over. And I will put full faith in the fact that whoever he does think is somebody that, yes, we need to have this person, that person is going to put on some spectacular matches, have a great, unique style, and going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, because even with Nakazawa, I was not very familiar. I was not familiar at all with him. And he is a very entertaining comedic wrestler. I find what he does, it's fresh to me because I'm not tired of it. I haven't been watching it for years. It's fresh to me and it's hilarious. And he entertains and he adds to the card as opposed to, if you bring someone in that we've already seen before, might not do that as well. So the fact that Michael Nakazawa was fresh, I believe Rio was one of his signings. She's fresh and she's super talented. So I think whoever he's bringing in will be fresh, they will be talented, and they will entertain.
Absolutely. All right. Speaking of fresh, new, interesting people, we've got CM Punk. He is doing a meet and greet at StarCast on Saturday morning and afternoon. In between, he will be doing a stage show. I believe this also involves a Q&A. Tickets are limited, but still available at $149 before taxes and fees. Now, of course, when CM Punk was announced for StarCast, everyone was posting the Cody listening gif. Everyone was, oh my God, CM Punk, AEW confirmed. But there's been a lot of sort of back and forth between CM Punk and AEW in the news. CM Punk was at a Pro Wrestling Tees meet and greet during All In, where StarCast first originated and kicked off.
I was at that meet and greet.
I was wondering if that was the one that you were mentioning.
Yes.
Yeah, so he was there and people were like, oh, wow, okay, maybe he's going to return to wrestling. And it seems like anytime CM Punk is anywhere near wrestling, that people want him back immediately. And people think that he is going to come to AEW. Now, CM Punk has been very emphatic about saying that he is completely done with wrestling. At the same time, however, he has also been very sly and sort of underhanded with his comments, saying things like, well, if they would have offered me a real contract, then maybe I would consider it. And then he moved the goalpost saying, okay, well, if they would have approached me directly instead of doing it over email and text, then maybe I would consider it. Cody Rhodes today was asked whether CM Punk would be joining AEW. Cody Rhodes responded, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't have the tweet right in front of me, but that they have reached out to him. They have long wanted to have him join AEW. Tony Khan, of course, had mentioned that CM Punk was one of the first people that he wanted to sign, and that the ball is in his court, but that he doesn't think that he will be joining AEW. Instead, Cody Rhodes said that he would probably be more likely to join WWE. What are your thoughts on CM Punk possibly joining WWE or AEW?
So we did a little talking, setting up the show before, and I was like, after this, Hangman also posted a picture, posted a tweet, and he was trying to be funny. It was a very good attempt at humor where he basically says, Matt, I know I loved your idea about BTE, but I think it was unprofessional for you to send it over a text. And that was a shot at something CM Punk had said, that, he got texted an offer and he wanted a face-to-face. So we're getting a lot of interaction between the wrestlers of AEW and CM Punk, which to me, it makes it extremely more likely, in my opinion, that he is going to be in AEW. Like I said, I'm 99% sure. Now, I could be 99% wrong. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I can. But I just feel like if he really wasn't going to be in it, they would do everything they can not to say his name. Not like in the WWE asshole way. It's just like when someone brings in CM Punk, he's not interested and move on at that point. The fact that they're making it like this is Cody Rhodes' tweet. I just happened to have it up. He said, "I think he was misquoted. I know one of us had met with him in person. Yes, I text him plenty when we can connect on the actual phone, but not a contracted offer. I wouldn't be surprised if he went back to the WWE. Regardless, great wrestler and guy, doors open if he wants it." To me, if you take that tweet and you play it in your head in Cody's voice, it's very similar to the Shawn Spears thing. It's like, I'm going to say all this good stuff. I'm going to take this small dig. Great guy, great wrestler.
I hadn't looked at it that way, but you're totally right. Yeah. Absolutely. I looked at it as like when they were talking about whether or not they would be going to WWE. When they were like, will we go to WWE? I don't know. Maybe we'll just do our own thing. I don't know. Meanwhile, you knew for sure that they were going to start their own company the whole time. And they're still like, well, we might go to WWE. It totally felt like that because, dude, CM Punk, if he's returning to wrestling, he's not going to go to the WWE. Like, no.
And I mean, I was going to say, it would probably be the richest contract in wrestling history if somehow he was to go to WWE. I just don't, I don't think he would. I don't even think he would consider it. I don't even think, honestly, the door is open on the other end. He's talked so much crap about the WWE. He's just like how it's a miserable place, and it made him hate wrestling. Oh my God, he would get booed so hard if he showed up in the WWE.
I don't know though, dude. Like the second you hear Cult of Personality, regardless of where you are, I'm pretty sure everyone's gonna lose their mind.
Everything's forgiven. I mean, I just like, so yeah. Like I said, he could play music, come out and like beat the crap out of Cody, and I'm gonna mark out like crazy. I'm not gonna want it to happen, but oh my God, it's CM Punk. He's back in wrestling. Yes, he's one of those people. He left. You know how they say, leave them wanting more? He is the 100% personification of that. Because I don't think any wrestler has ever left that people, like, non-injury, like, left and people wanted them back more than, a chant for dissatisfaction at TV shows is CM Punk. It's just like, whenever he goes back, if he comes back, he is going to be God level. I don't think pro wrestling teams won't be able to keep their merchandise in. So if he could do that with AEW, it would be great. Like I said, I was very bitter because the January that he didn't show up was the January before WrestleMania 30. That was my WrestleMania going back. I had taken a long break from going to WrestleManias, and I was going back for WrestleMania 30, and the person I wanted to meet, the thing I wanted to see is I was going back for CM Punk. And he basically quit before then, for his personal reasons. I completely understand it now. For years I had been bitter about it. It's like, dude, if you want to wrestle, you wrestle. That's my big thing. It's like, you want to wrestle, you wrestle. I'm like, there's 100 other companies. If you want to wrestle, you wrestle. But the anticipation he has built by not wrestling, oh my God, if he shows up in the door, everything is forgiven. We're good.
Dude, he is the epitome of hard to get. 5 years.
Yes.
5 years. People have been chanting his name and wanting him. Like, that is insane. And you're right. I don't think anyone has garnered that much a focus and attention and desire to have them back into a ring. And for me personally, like, I'm like, okay, dude, you want to wrestle? Great. You don't want to wrestle? Great. Like, I'm just kind of sick and tired of the whole, like, will he? Won't he? Oh, I don't know. At the same time, though, dude, he comes out, that music hits, I'm going to be losing my freaking mind with everybody else because it will be a moment. It will be amazing. And I think that given the fact that the pace has been building up with Cody talking about it today, with CM Punk talking about it last week, with Hangman Page talking about it. And I'm pretty sure they will have a BTE bit about it. I think that there's something to that. It's going to be really interesting. And at this point, I mean, if you thought it was bad at All Out with people expecting CM Punk to be there, dude, if that dude doesn't show up after all of this, or at All Out rather, like, oh my gosh, they're building something with it, and it'll be really interesting to see if he's there.
Yeah, it's like Double or Nothing was in Las Vegas. John Moxley is from Las Vegas, and he debuted in Las Vegas. Now it's in Chicago. CM Punk's in Chicago. CM Punk's working with StarCast, which is separate from AEW. I got quotes up in the air. Separate from AEW.
Totally separate
from
totally
AEW.
Separate entity.
Yes, and it's like, and it's kind of funny. Like Pro Wrestling Tees and StarCast, Pro Wrestling Tees is at StarCast, but they kind of stay away from each other. Even Pro Wrestling Tees put out, you can still get tickets to see CM Punk. So the fact is, it's like, how are y'all not? You're all one. You know what I mean? AEW, StarCast, Pro Wrestling Tees, they're kind of all together. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's funny that they try to, some people, I know Pro Wrestling Tees doesn't, but StarCast definitely tries to say, we're a separate entity. And I'm like, you're a separate entity with the whole AEW roster doing meet and greets at your show.
And only running your shows at AEW shows.
Yes, only running your shows at AEW. And now you got CM Punk, the ultimate get. Now, I can say, and this is 100% how I understand it, Punk, when he does meet and greets, he doesn't like to leave Chicago. So if he was going to do a meet and greet, this would be the ones that he does. All the meet and greets he does are already in Chicago. So this all lines up with his normal behavior. This is what he does. I think it was like Ace Comic-Con or something like that. I forgot what the Comic-Con in Chicago does. He does do signing there. So when he does a signing, it is in Chicago. Well, like I said, the back and forth makes me think something's happening. I don't know if they're just working us and wanting us to believe something's going to happen. But, yeah, I think Punk walks through that door. And I don't know if he gets physical, but he's definitely going to be there.
Well, they better hit that damn music, dude.
Dude, that music.
You better throw all the money at the rights for that song.
Yes.
I don't care how much it costs. You got it?
Yes.
Throw that con money and develop this cult of personality.
Oh my God. It's the, like, I was, Cody hitting the throne was a bullet or a shot fired at WWE, as much as anybody want to say anything. Then Moxley showing up at their first big show, shot fired towards WWE. And you're looking at this show, you're like, where is the shot fired towards the WWE going to be? And I'm not saying everything that they do is going to be about WWE. It won't be. But they do like to get their digs in. The guy that WWE that couldn't sign, CM Punk showing up, that's like a cannonball towards the WWE. That's not a shot. That's a bomb. It's like, oh my God.
It's a pipe bomb.
Yeah, it's a pipe bomb in Chicago. In Chicago, he comes out. That just be crazy.
Absolutely agreed, man. All right, so we got one last little bit of news before we dive into Floyd's exceptional coverage of Being the Elite Recaps, and that is AEW has partnered with Live Source, which is an app that runs sweepstakes and auctions for experiences and memorabilia. The reason why we're bringing this up today is because I saw something about this come across my Twitter feed, and I was like, what in the world is this? I went to allelitewrestling.com just to look at news for the week and saw that they had 2 articles about this partnership. So that's why we're talking about it. And they are currently running sweepstakes for tickets to All Out. So if you are hoping to score a chance to see All Out, then I would suggest downloading Live Source. It's free. And checking out their sweepstakes because you could win tickets to see All Out. Floyd, I am knocking this over to your court.
Yes, I'm also looking forward to they also have it where you can win like the referee's shirt Earl Hebner's shirt that's got Cody and Dustin's blood on it. They have you can win that. And I forgot what the other thing. Oh yeah, it was John Moxley's jacket. You can win that from Double or Nothing. Oh my
God, that would be amazing. Yes. Okay, hold on. Before you start talking about Be the Elite, if any of our listeners happen to win John Moxley's jacket, please tag us in it because I need to see this. I need to see the photo. I need to see somebody completely thrilled and ecstatic and exuberant rocking this jacket because that is amazing.
Yeah, if I was to win that referee shirt, I would lose weight so I could wear it all the time.
Here,
I am quite a bit larger than Earl Hebner, unfortunately. But we got 2 weeks of shows to catch up on you. What I went ahead and did is just took out the highlights from each show that I thought were funny. So if I miss anything, I'm sorry. I didn't think it was as funny as you did. So from the 7/14th episode of BTE, it's backstage a Fighter for the Fallen. They show the Bucks at the Jacksonville Football Stadium. They hope to do their show there one day. Their math was a little weird because they said it would hold 67,000. It's like with the stage, it'll hold 60,000. But I'm like, you have to remember the whole football field is available for people. So it's probably still going to hold about 67,000. Parts of the field where you wouldn't normally put people, you would put people because, you wouldn't want a big gap around the ring or whatever. Unless they're thinking something I'm not thinking. They are smarter than me. At least one of them went to college. Looks like they are setting up a feud between Sammy G and Brandon Cutler. Because every time Brandon Cutler's around Sammy G takes a shot and calls him a nerd. And he basically, this one was funny when he's like, well, you know what? Your wife's doing the costume thing. You're doing the production thing. So when wrestling doesn't work out for you, you have that to fall back on. I always think Sammy G's digs are the best. Like, he's one of those people, he's a heel, but he does it in such a shitty way, you almost hate him more than MJF.
Sammy, stop being so mean. It's not that.
Yes. It's like, MJF's at least forward with it. Sammy does it in a way where he's kind of complimenting you by making you feel really bad about yourself, too. We see a picture of Bea Priestley making their entrance, and it was just like I said, she's a star. But I wanted to put this in there because of the reaction that she came when she got out there. It's just like, didn't think a lot of people knew who Bea Priestley was. I knew I was introduced to her as Will Ospreay's girlfriend. Then I, caught what matches I could from her, and I thought she was awesome. But yeah, it's like even that reaction still surprises me. Then we got Leva. She loves the librarian gimmick. Peter Avalon hates it. I wanted to put this in here because I was trying to explain to my friend Dave. My friend Dave is a very intelligent person. He is a librarian, and he absolutely hates this character. And he's like, because it's not what we do, and that's all people think we do. And I was like, okay, well, if you watch BTE, which I tried, I sent him a couple clips. It's supposed to suck. This is supposed to be a horrible gimmick. It's an irony thing. It's supposed to be a WWE gimmick that doesn't work, that they're kind of making fun of, and people are supposed to hate it. That's the joke. Once I told him that, he understood. He's like, oh. And I was like, yeah, the joke is it's really, really bad. So it's funny when I'm listening to other podcasts, because I do listen to other AEW podcasts, and they're talking about how bad the gimmick is. I'm like, you don't get it. It's supposed to be bad. It's like scratching your nails across the chalkboard. It's bad. It's supposed to be bad. It's like, so, okay. Then we got the Lucha Brothers challenging the Bucks to a ladder match. We'll talk about that more later. SCU gets pissed off at the Lucha Bros for attacking them with a ladder. They say they no longer respect the Lucha Bros, and SCU literally has no fucks given. So it looks like if you're going based on that, AEW doesn't throw crap out there for no reason. It looks like the Lucha Bros, win or lose, their next feud is probably going to be with SCU. And then
yes,
yes,
that's going to be awesome,
right? Because Scorpio Sky is, like I said, he's one of those people that I look at and I'm like, I see as part of the future of the company, and he'll get to work with them. And it's just like they always, whoever they're wrestling with, they push them to go to that next level, which is awesome. So I would love to see them going to that next level. Hangman getting staples, they show that part. He was like, "Can't you just super glue it?" And I was like, it was funny because it was such a real moment. You don't want staples. You don't want stitches. If they can just super glue it shut and keep going, that's even better. Then they show him attacking Jericho, and then the last part, which was the emotional part, is you show the Bucks. They're over in the corner. Cody and Dustin are sitting next to each other, kind of pissed off. And they's like, we were just doing it all in the spirit of competition. Basically, we were needling you so we can get the best out of you. And they did get the best. And it was funny. It was like Dustin, like, how's your arm? He said it hurts. He's like, good. Oh, no. He said, I'm sorry about that. In the word of the worst apology ever. I'm sorry about that. So they didn't give them slices of pizza, and it seems like they get over it. Then, on the next episode of BTE, Escalera de la Muerta, that is Ladder of Death. That's from what I understand it is. If I did Google Translate, Ladder of Death. So we get a skit making fun of the librarian gimmick and Vince McMahon. So if you didn't get that this was irony and that the thing is supposed to suck, this one was like, boom, laying it out for you. You're not supposed to enjoy this gimmick. Peter Avalon goes into the room, and he's talking to the Stooges, who are the EVPs, and he basically says, I can't even see with these glasses on. This librarian gimmick is stupid. And, of course, if you ever listen to a Jon Moxley, Vince McMahon interview and his impression of him, basically they just did that. They said this was good shit. He's like, I'm basically playing an idiot, which is what Dean Ambrose said. And he's like, no, you have to be smarter to play an idiot. And then, he's like, this is how you're going to make it here. And he's like, well, Peter Avalon's, well, I'll keep doing it. It was pretty much like, if you listen to Dean Ambrose's, either one of his interviews, it was basically an interaction between him and Vince McMahon played out for the librarian character. Like, almost word for word how he described it. So at that point, one of the Stooges sneezes, and he's like, how dare you sneeze? Only Mark sneeze. You get that shit under control. Again, another thing from Vince McMahon. So this wasn't subtle at all. This is straight making fun of Vince McMahon all the way. Then they continued something they've been doing over a few weeks, where people not noticing Marco's stunt. This time, it was Billy Gunn. He went to sit down, and he sat on top of him, and he literally told him, why don't you grow a little bit? Like, he can't. He's like, no, and then he says no one sees him. Luchasaurus comes up to Marco's stunt and says, I've been dealing with bullying for 65 million years. Actually, Jungle Boy does this thing where he kind of sniffs him and plays with his hair like he was an animal trying to recognize him. And then Luchasaurus says, I've been dealing with bullying for 65 million years. We got your back. Which I found out this from another AEW show called Everything Elite, that Luchasaurus, when he was in the WWE, there was the bullying thing with one of their trainers. And he's the one that was the whistleblower. So this goes along with the Luchasaurus, who he is as a person.
Whoa.
So, yeah. That is all shouts out to Everything Elite on the Voices of Wrestling. I wouldn't have known that if they hadn't brought it out. Like I said, I listen to their show every week because, it enhances my show. And so they go off and walk together. So that's why you got a boy and the dinosaur. So that works out. And it added more to that. And then Bucks accepted the Lucha Bros ladder match, and they said they've beaten the Hardy Boys in a ladder match. They've been in ladder wars, and then they go to making fun of Pentagon's Sierra Romero. He's like, you got people yelling, and he's like, to get in your head, we have to become you. And then the next thing you see them wearing the Lucha Bros mask, and that leads to basically the match is on. Escalera de la Muerta, I guess that's what they're going to call the actual match for the AAA Tag Team Championship hanging from a ladder. I'm hoping this is the last time the AAA tag belts are defended in AEW, as in I'm hoping we get our belts fairly soon. But that was it. That caught you up on 2 weeks of Being the Elite. I know you watched it, Amy. Did you have any thoughts about Being the Elite?
I loved the build-up with SCU and the Lucha Bros. Loved the build-up with the Young Bucks and Lucha Bros. I gotta say, with the librarian thing, I totally understand why people don't get it. Because, I'm going to go on a tiny tangent here, and I'm going to try and contain it as much as possible.
Go for it.
So the problem that we have is that they're filling this in on Being the Elite, which makes sense because that's the best way that they have to reach their audience that follows them regularly. We all watch it. We all get it. But when they put on their pay-per-view shows, that's reaching a new audience who's checking them out, who isn't watching Being the Elite. There's a lot of people there who are watching these pay-per-views who don't watch Being the Elite, so they wouldn't get that joke at all. All they see is a bad gimmick that's out on a pre-show for no reason. And they don't get that. So I totally understand that disconnect there. I personally actually love Peter Avalon as the librarian, Leva Bates as the librarian, them working together, totally growing on me. And that's in spite of the fact that I actually work with libraries. And so I'm constantly like, but that's not what happens at a library. So all of that aside, I do love the gimmick. I love Peter Avalon. I love the sort of love situation that they have, this unrequited love kind of thing. I really love the little drama story that they have playing in the background, but I absolutely understand that people don't get the in-joke. And I think it's going to be challenging when you're trying to get your funny joke over that requires a couple of steps of thinking in order to understand it. I think it's going to be difficult for people to get that joke if they have to do work to figure it out.
Yes, and I have to actually agree with that. I mean, as an insider, as someone that watches all the shows, I get that gets lost on me sometimes. So maybe they have someone that's in work on BTE to clip together all the things that have led to the librarian gimmick and maybe put that on the AEW site or AEW YouTube and point people to that to at least get a little more knowledge out there.
Oh, for sure. Because it's a fun joke. It's a fun gimmick, especially if you get the joke. It's hilarious, but it takes getting that joke. And I think that this week's Being the Elite, where they were sort of parodying Jon Moxley with Vince McMahon, which, again, you would have also had to listen to Jericho's podcast in order to understand. But I loved that they did that because then it sort of let you know what the situation is with the librarians. And I think that if they make that a little clearer, for people who maybe aren't certain, then I think that'll do a lot in letting people know just what the gimmick's for, why it's there, and why it's so bad it's good.
Yes, and like I said, it's funny. That's a completely different take that I didn't think about, at all. That's awesome that comes out. Yeah, because I don't think, sometimes I can't think like someone, most of the time I can, I'm pretty good at it, but sometimes I can't think of someone that doesn't watch watch BTE, watch Road 2. I am so involved, especially when it comes to the stuff getting prepared for this show, that it's oh, that's the joke. How do you not get it? Oh, you don't watch BTE.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I watch all of them. I love them, but I could definitely see where there's a disconnect. And hopefully when they do their weekly TNT shows, they did mention that they weren't sure that they would have as much time to devote to Being the Elite, even though they love doing it. So maybe we'll start to see more of that as a cohesive unit on their TNT weekly shows.
Yeah, maybe we see the skits, maybe like during the show or whatever, and that would be good because then people would understand that this character is basically, like I said, a WWE character on a show that it doesn't fit. The fact that it doesn't fit is the thing. That's what it goes. It's supposed to come off awkward.
Yeah, it's supposed to be Dean Ambrose in a gas mask getting vaccinations in his butt. It's supposed to be good shit.
Yeah, it's supposed to be bad. It's supposed to be something, yeah. So it's supposed to be bad, and you're supposed to laugh at it, and you're supposed to hate it. And, Fight for the Fallen, they were getting major heat, and it was working the way they wanted it to work. But like I said, I listened to a lot of reviews because I wanted to hear as many different takes as I can. And one of the takes was like, the librarian's got to go. And I'm like, no, because it's just not every. I mean, I know there's people out there that are hardcore wrestling fans and they want super serious sports related wrestling all the time. But there are people out there that think the librarians are hilarious. They're not going to be. I was going to say they're not. Me, I laugh at it. They might not be in your circle, but the thing is, they're trying to reach as many different people with as many different tastes as possible. And the market for a straight wrestling program with nothing funny and nothing like that is very small.
Dude, even New Japan has Yano. You need something to break it up.
Yeah, Taichi, Yano, even Moxley's different, because shit, he's outside the ring half the time in his matches. So it's just like you have to understand it is a variety show. So if it's something you don't like, just wait about 5 minutes. They'll move on to the next thing.
Exactly. And it'll be really fun, and it gives you that time to recharge as you get next into the heavy hitting match. Because honestly, I need somewhat of a break in those emotional matches. It's like when we watched Double or Nothing and we had Cody and Dustin and it was super emotional. And then we had, the Young Bucks coming out. And that was sort of a breath of fresh air in between Cody and Dustin and Kenny Omega and Jericho and Moxley. You need to have something that kind of breaks up that flow.
Yeah, and you see what happens when it's not done, right? You get the whole Hangman and Kip Sabian thing after the triple threat match. There was no break to re-energize, so a really good match kind of came off flat.
Exactly. So now we've got our road to All Out, and we've got highlights that you have kindly set up here from the road to All Out.
They're much shorter
Go for
shows.
It, man.
I was just gonna say they're much shorter shows.
Yeah.
So they're not. They're like
Knock it out.
they're only 7 to 10 minutes. We get in that first show, so we get highlights from Fight for the Fallen. We get Tony Schiavone, which was amazing in the AEW Control Center, and I'm hoping we get that as a regular thing. I love the AEW Control Center. It's much like Sports Center, and he's talking about the Hangman and Kip Sabian match, and he made it way more interesting than it came off to a lot of people while watching it, because they broke it down. He hit the highlights, and Hangman winning. Then he goes into Jericho attacking him, which was great. We go and then we show Hangman cutting this badass promo. Now, I've talked about the name, but this was where, if you're not all that familiar, and then it kind of stinks because it is on YouTube, this is him as a star. He cuts this badass promo, pulls the stitch out. You see him bleeding in the sink, talking about he's going to look at this wound and look at it every day until All Out, and he's going to become champion. And I was like, okay, now I see it. I see what they see. I thought that was really good with Hangman there. Then we get Spears interview. Pretty much he played out what he said. He got to talk to Jim Ross, said it was an honor to talk to him, glad he came. And he said it was the good hand comment. And he said it's something like, in our circle, you can say you're a good hand, but it's not something you're supposed to say in front of other people. And I love this. This was refreshing because this is so real life. It's like, it's certain, you have your group of friends, male or female, and you have this friend that's kind of an asshole or whatever. And everyone knows it or whatever, but you're never supposed to say it, right? And if you, or you can say it in the circle, but you're like, oh, you meet you meet these new people, and you're like, oh man, my friend's an asshole. Whoa, you're not supposed to say that. And it's just like, it's a very real, yes, that guy would get mad at you for saying, even though we understand it, you're not supposed to tell other people that crap. So, yes, and it was a very real moment, very real, like, yes, that's why he has a problem with him. And then how it introduced, and he says, I had an ace up my sleeve, and Tully Blanchard walking out there. And, and Tully Blanchard is who he is. To the 80s fans, he cuts a huge presence, and then he says, interview over. That just reminded me of a backstage interview back in the 80s. It was such a, like, oh, we have a plan. We're not going to let you know what it is. And I thought that was a great way to end episode 1. It left me wanting more. And then we got episode 2. We got, we get Havoc, Jimmy Havoc, Darby Allin, Joey Janela getting into a fight. Now we get announced that they're going to have a 3-way match at All Out. Tully Blanchard discusses his agenda or lack thereof in helping Spears. When I say lack thereof, he says he doesn't have a problem with Cody. He likes Cody. But Spears respected him enough to ask him for help, which is, why he's like, yeah, I see the talent there. I mean, if you look at Shawn Spears, like, if you don't think about 10 and you don't think about how long he's worked, he's a big, good-looking, fit dude. You know what I mean? Of course, I can mold that into somebody that is going to be successful, and that showed their symbiotic relationship. He's going to help him. Tully Blanchard kind of stays relevant, and then you get Chris Van Vliet in the AEW Control Center, talks about the feud between Moxley and Kenny Omega. Again, perfect for someone that might not know everything. If you have a friend that is not as familiar with AEW, please point to them to these shows. Then Moxley cuts this promo on Kenny. He says, dude, we're not in a video game. You only get one life. And he says he's going to Japan. He's like, he doesn't believe, he's like, it's the myth of Kenny Omega. And he's like, he doesn't know whether he believes in it or not, but he's taking it serious. That's why he's going over to Japan and wrestle, because he wants to walk in the path of Kenny the Omega, to understand Kenny Omega. And he's like, I might be a joke, but this joke's going to break your jaw. And I just thought, Jon Moxley, right now, promo god. I think he's the number one promo in wrestling right now, because it's a character he has developed, and he understands, and it comes across in everything that he says. But
dude, these video packages are amazing, and Moxley's promo, I just got to say this real quick. So, like, Moxley's in New Japan right now. He's fighting in the G1 tournament. Kenny Omega was a massive star in New Japan, regularly main eventing Wrestle Kingdom, which is their WrestleMania. And for Moxley to go to Japan to walk in Kenny's shoes, so to speak, and walk his path, not only in Japan, but in the G1. The G1, they are putting on match of the year quality candidate matches every single night of the G1. And Moxley, for him to say, I may be a joke, this dude is sitting here for a New Japan audience, for people who were skeptical of Jon Moxley just waltzing in to New Japan and entering in the G1 without the accolades, are voting him in right alongside with Ishii as the MVP of the G1 tournament right now.
Yes, absolutely. Dave Meltzer's newsletter came out. His match with Ishii, not going to say the winner just in case you be spoiled, but it got rated 5 stars. And he hadn't, this was his first 5-star match in his career. And, nothing even got close to 5 stars when he was in the WWE. So he's motivated, and people are paying attention, and it's showing when he's in the ring.
Absolutely. And it's also showing that when you've got somebody who is a bona fide star, such as Kenny Omega in this world, WWE, when you look at wrestlers, you appreciate their talent. You appreciate the fact that they are incredible athletes, but there's so much around the show of WWE that you kind of lose sight on the prestige of it because WWE treats it in a different way. New Japan tends to sort of focus on that prestige of in-ring technicians. So Kenny Omega is a masterful wrestler. So to have a guy come from the WWE, go immediately into a hardcore training camp in Vegas, and then immediately go from that to the G1 in New Japan shows that he's serious, shows that he's a formidable threat, and based on the success that he has garnered in the G1 so far, is not only great for him on a personal level and for him, in his career and everything, but for this particular match, just this little specific area, it builds up to an incredible match for people who know of Kenny Omega's potential in like that Japanese crazy style of wrestling, and then seeing Moxley excel in that too. This is going to be a match of the night for me heading into it. I don't know what in the world could possibly top Moxley versus Omega at All Out. I'm sure they'll do it, but holy wow, they are building up to something incredible here with this one.
Yeah, absolutely. When it comes down to it, it's the most anticipated match. It's like everything in my guts like this should be the world title match. You know what I mean? It's like it should be, and I'm like I understand Hangman, I understand Jericho, and they'll do a better job of building it up more over the next month and few days. But it's just like right now, the hot matches are clearly hot matches are Moxley and Omega and Cody and Shawn Spears. Those are much more of anticipated and hot matches than the said world title match, which should be the most important match. So hopefully they do a little better than that. The matches announced for All Out so far, I just kind of put it out there so we could have this on each week. We got Hangman Page versus Chris Jericho, Jon Moxley versus Kenny Omega, the Best Friends versus the Dark Order. The winner gets a bye in the AEW Tag Team Title Tournament. We get the Lucha Bros versus the Young Bucks in a ladder match for the AAA Tag Titles. We get Cody Rhodes versus Shawn Spears. And then we got Darby Allin versus Joey Janela versus Jimmy Havoc in a triple threat match. So we've yet to get a women's match. I know the women's title will be presented at AEW at All Out, so we definitely know that. But those are the matches in lineup. It's actually a really good card so far.
Absolutely. And I am really looking forward to seeing what they have in store as far as women's matches, because based on Fight for the Fallen, you've got a situation with Bea Priestley and Britt Baker, which could be outstanding. We also have a setup for Aja Kong and Ali Elites. Sometimes I almost said Ali. In fact, Ali Elite and Aja Kong versus Brandy Rhodes and Awesome Kong. So it looks like Awesome Kong, based on the media work that Brandy Rhodes has done this week and in the photos and Twitter posts that she has made with her and Awesome Kong, that they are a duo now. Awesome Kong is in AEW. She's made a couple of appearances, but it seems like now they've got her on the promotional circuits with TV Guide. They've got her running photos, shoots with Brandy Rhodes. She is with AEW now by all looks, by all appearances.
Yeah, and that's awesome. She brings, and no pun intended, she brings credibility to the women's division. Whenever you're going to need, you get your women's champion and you're going to need a threat for the title. Awesome Kong's always going to be able to play that role because, she's who she is. I mean, she's always going to be able to play that pivotal role. So she adds a lot to the company, and she makes Brandy more formidable as a wrestler. And it was, like I said, it was very funny. I've seen people point out that Brandy was a heel wrestler, and then she comes out for the check thing at the end of the Fight for the Fallen. I'm just like, it's like people don't understand complicated characters. I was like, I know people, and it's like, I like if you play PlayStation with them and they're playing you, they're talking crap, they're running you down, they hate you. And then as soon as the game's over, they're like, hey, man, you want me to help you change your flat tire? Some people are just vicious competitors.
Yeah.
That's what Brandy Rhodes is. I'm like, I don't understand how this is a difficult concept. She's just a vicious competitor. She's
a vicious competitor who's also the brand officer for AEW. So of course she's going to come out with a check presentation, and then, you know, like, you can keep different ideas in your head. Like, dude, she was a total punk in this match. Oh, cool. Look, they're donating $150,000 to charity. Awesome.
No one is one thing. No one. Whoever you talk about, no one is just one thing. People are complicated people, and we like to see that in wrestling. We love to see Jon Moxley dropping the crap out of Shota Umino, and it's like, dude, I like how you fight. You're now my sidekick.
Yes! I love that so much.
Yes! Like, I know I'm using a New Japan reference, but it's like the most appropriate one. It's like, yes, and it's like, hey, you're my sidekick now. It's like, yes. When we're in the ring, we compete. When we're out of the ring, and, you know, I might take a few shortcuts when we're in the ring. When we're out of the ring, hey, we can be buddies. So that's how it works. And it's like, I to use another New Japan example, Kenta is freaking vicious when he wrestles. Then after the match, he wants to shake your hand. Well, just a second ago, you were trying to kick my face in. I don't know if I want to shake your hand after that, but hey. Buddy, no, it's just, I've really enjoyed the G1. I know this is not a New Japan show, but we have an AEW person in it, so I am always flexible to talk about it enough. Jon Moxley has been amazing, but the G1 has been amazing. If you're listening to the show and you don't keep up with New Japan, give it a shot. It's just so good. Just so good.
1,000,000% agreed. Absolutely. It's so, especially with Moxley in it, you get to see, like, if you loved Moxley coming out at Double or Nothing, and if you've loved Moxley's promos in the Road to shows, get a taste of what he's doing. Get a taste of who this guy is, because seriously, when I look at Dean Ambrose, I see a dude in WWE doing Vince McMahon things. When I see Jon Moxley in the G1, I see an animal force that's been unleashed on the world, and he is hungry. And it is incredible to see and feel that energy. So, man, watch Moxley, check it out. Check out what New Japan has to offer, because also that gives you sort of some context as to Kenny Omega and, you know, the Joshi wrestling scene, and some of the people that Kenny Omega might end up bringing over from Japan, whether they're from New Japan or DDT. There's a whole world of wrestling out there, and it's converging in All Elite Wrestling, and it really feels like a worldwide experience, and part of that's wrapped up in New Japan too.
Yeah, absolutely. Last thing before we go, I thought of this, but I didn't write it down. Vince McMahon yesterday at the WWE Quarterly said WWE wasn't going back to the Attitude Era. He then called his product a more sophisticated product, and that he wasn't going to go blood and guts like some of their competitors. What do you think of AEW being called blood and guts?
I think that there's a couple of things here that are really telling. One of them is that AEW is competition for the WWE. A lot of people have wanted to put that off for a long time, or to dismiss it, or to minimize it. If Vince McMahon is speaking in his quarterly financial calls to his shareholders about their competition, their direction, their ratings, their storyline, etc., and they mention AEW as competition, they are competition. Second, yes, they're going to sort of try to minimize that. They're going to try to do anything they can to be like, yeah, we're above this other company. We're not, down and tawdry like these people are. They do have an audience that caters to sort of PG wrestling. And the audience for AEW is one that has felt that an exciting, thrilling, on the edge of your seat style of wrestling has been lacking for a long time. So yes, there is a difference there, but I also don't think that, AEW is going to be all blood all the time, but some of it's going to be a part of it. But I think that's what draws people into it. It's not there for shock value. It's there to tell a story. It's there to play along in a match and it adds to it. And I'm saying this as a person who does not like blood. I am very squeamish when it comes to blood on wrestlers. I cannot stand it. I don't mind it here because it feels like it has a purpose. It's not just there for shock value.
Yes, I definitely agree. When it comes down to it, it's pro wrestling like we understood it. It's basically you saying, in a way, Vince McMahon saying his most profitable and exciting time as a wrestling promoter and as a wrestling company was unsophisticated. Now, yeah,
kind of crazy for somebody who keeps trying to bring the people from that era back at every beck and call.
Absolutely. You're calling it unsophisticated. And the thing is, I don't know about anybody else. Wrestling has never been sophisticated, you know? It's not supposed to be. It's not, I mean, the suit and tie people are welcome, don't get me wrong, but it's not for them. It's wrestling. It's a live action soap opera. It's a story where when your friend says something and insults you, you hit him over the head with a chair. You know, it's not.
It's a fight.
It's a fight. It's not sophisticated. It's grimy. It's
messy.
It's messy, and that's what I want in my wrestling. And I think when he said that, when he says WWE is a sophisticated product, I think he told me why I don't enjoy it as much as I used to.
Exactly, because it feels sterile.
Yes.
It feels like a Disney plastic toy. It doesn't feel like the emotional, compelling story. It doesn't feel realistic.
You're trying to be something you're not. You're trying to be something you're not. And that annoys me. Then I also saw one thing that goes along with this. WWE's T-shirt merchandise sale is down 9%. Now, and you were like, what does that have to do with AEW? Pro Wrestling Tees works very closely with AEW. You know who's not having problems selling T-shirts?
The T-shirt company?
Yes. And you know what WWE wrestlers are doing? Opening up stores on Pro Wrestling Tees because they realize their products suck. You got the Majors Wrestling Figure Podcast, which is Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins. Revival, a.k.a. FTR, started their shirt store today. Think about that. You have people in your company choosing to go to another company to sell their shirts so they actually can make good shirts that people want to buy.
Yep.
Just saying.
Yep. Okay. Real quickly then, before we go, can we talk about the Raw reunion show real quick?
Yes.
Because, all right, so Twitter at first was like, no, this was something else, and I'm still convinced that this is what it was. All right, so to set the stage here, you've got the Raw reunion show, which essentially means bringing back as many Attitude Era stars as possible and having this great reunion show. I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. It was a reunion show. I liked the reunion aspect of it. That said, there was a point where they had Braun Strowman come out for a 3-minute squash match to a jobber that they called Randy Rhodes on commentary. And then I believe it was Corey Graves was like, oh, no, it was supposed to be Randy Rowe. And then people on Twitter were like, yeah, no, it wasn't a shot at Brandy Rhodes or Cody Rhodes or any of the Rhodes. It was for Randy Rowe. So I look up Randy Rowe and I'm like, really? So WWE is going to bring out a bunch of Attitude Era people and then pay tribute to a guitarist for Ozzy Osbourne that passed away 3 months ago for a name that sounds very similar to the Rhodes family, and then have him in a squash match? Like, I might be wrong on this, and if I am, I apologize if I'm being insensitive, but it seems a little coincidental to have a show filled with Attitude Era people take a shot in a squash match at a jobber named similarly to a member of the Rhodes family with a hard S right after they declared war on the Attitude Era.
Yep.
So
it was,
that
as I
fun.
say, it was not lost on me. It was not at all lost on me. It's funny because it's like they're coming off. I'm not going to say they're not. They're trying to address it the best way they can. I'm not going to say they're threatened, but they're trying to address it the best way they can. And I don't. The WWE. The thing about it is their playbook about what they're going to do to try to limit AEW. AEW already has. AEW is very friendly with Dave Meltzer. No one knows the wrestling business better than Dave Meltzer. So, that being said, they're going to know everything the WWE is going to do. The counter programming, the trying to book shows in the different current, close cities. They're going to know it all because WWE's been doing the same shit for 30 years, 40 years.
Yep.
So, it's like, okay, yes, there's such thing as called counter. Because think about it is, if you just put on, okay, WWE is like, oh, we're going to put on this show at the same time. But when that show's not as good as the AEW show, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't. Because people are going to watch which one's better. That's what you're going to get. You're going to get excitement. They did the Evolve show, and the Evolve show was a really good show. But it was just but the AEW fans aren't going to be like, oh, I'm not watching this because Evolve's on. It's like, I'll watch Evolve later. I think
Exactly.
it's not a big deal. It's just like, come on. We live in it. You went back 30 years ago when you literally had to decide which one you were going to watch, because if you didn't watch it right then, you had to wait 3 months for it to show up on VHS. Now we have this thing called DVR and streaming sites and some illegal streaming sites. You can watch whatever you want when you want to watch it.
Absolutely, man. And if they want to take shots at each other while they're doing this, more please, because at this point, now that WWE is fired back, if AEW does end up taking a shot at WWE, I ain't even mad. This is entertaining as hell. This is fun.
This is war. When companies compete, the entertainment is better. When companies compete, everyone enjoys their show more. I don't understand why WWE fans don't want competition. I don't understand why AEW fans don't want competition. Because competition drives ideas. Giving Austin the ball and letting him run with it, direct reaction to WCW. DX and all these, the edgier product that we ended up getting was a direct reaction to WCW. And Goldberg getting pushed, and then we got Hogan versus Goldberg in the Georgia Dome on a Monday night. Direct reaction to WWE getting the ratings back. I loved this time in history and I lived it. So I could have details. So please just enjoy this competition. Don't take it personally, and please don't be mean to each other on Twitter. I know that it's almost pointless for me to say because people are still going to be mean to each other on Twitter, but I'm still going to say this. Wrestling, AEW, WWE is for everybody. If someone doesn't like something that you don't like, you will live. It's all entertainment. Stop being mean to each other.
It's gonna be okay.
It's gonna
be awesome.
Yes.
All right.
As I say, I know a lot of people that think Cody is a 3-star wrestler, and I'm like, I don't care. I still love him.
Dude, and there are people who don't think Kenny Omega is one of the best wrestlers in the world, and I'm like, that's cool. I do.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, man, we got so much to look forward to with All Out. We've got so much to look forward to with these incredible jaw-dropping production values in their Road to videos. We've got new antics for Being the Elite coming up. I can't wait to see how they address both CM Punk and the Raw reunion show. This is going to be a really fun Being the Elite episode, I think. And yeah, we've got, man, All Out coming up in less than a month, man.
Absolutely, and I'm looking forward to it. Wrestling is, this is it, and it's like this is about to be the most exciting time ever. When I said I was going to the first TV taping, Crystals, I was like, this is, how many times this happens in history, in our lifetime? Like none. A major company backed by a billionaire having their first TV show. This has happened exactly 0 times. So I'm going to be there for it, and I hope everyone enjoys it. And yeah, we'll be here to talk about it, definitely.
Absolutely, man, and I can't wait. And we'll see each other again at StarCast and All Out in Chicago. We're already planning meetups. We're already planning watch parties. We're already planning StarCast stuff. So make sure you hit up All Things Elite on Twitter. Make sure you check out StarCast's Twitter and, of course, All Elite Wrestling's Twitter to keep abreast as to everything that's happening and everything that's going down in Chicago.
All right. Well, first I would like to shout out my new wife, Crystal, who probably won't even listen to the show. Very happy that I'm with her. But I want to say to everyone, whether it's home, work, or school, always do your best to be elite.